Hi YouTube. Alright. This is Granny Cat Bandit, and this is my review of the movie For Color Girls. Now this is coming a bit late because I've, final exams, and now that I finally have a break, from all of that and school and whatnot, I want to give my review and just, give my opinion on some of the other reviews that I've heard. I've heard a lot of things about For Color Girls on YouTube and outside of YouTube from both black men and black women. But this right here first, before I get into all of that, I want to get into, just what I thought of the movie. I thought the movie was wonderful. I did. The actresses were great. Loretta Devine, Felicia Rashard. Who else was in it? You had Kimberly Elise. I love her. And all of them, all-star female cast. Janet Jackson's a really good actress as well. So all-star female cast. Let me tell you a little bit what about For Color Girls is about. First of all, For Color Girls is in the movie. I think, if I'm saying this correctly, it's an adaptation of a play that was written in the 70s, which is called For Colored Girls Who Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough, or is not enough. So once again, it was For Color Girls. The movie is simply an adaptation of a 70s play, which was called For Colored Girls Who Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Not Enough. If I'm saying that right. So that is what it is. Tyler Perry directed it, but ultimately he did not really write it. He did a little twerk here and there, add in some lines for the actresses to say and whatnot. But as far as I know, Tyler Perry simply directed this, add his own little tweakings, but overall, it's still in its original state from the play. Okay. It's basically just about black women's struggles and their relationships with black men. That's simply what it is. That's all it is. And it's simply different stories of women in black relationships, their struggles, everything, and whatnot. Okay, like I said, I love the movie. It was wonderful. I don't want to spoil it. Gotta go see it yourself. Well, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it. I am gonna spoil it for you, because I gotta talk about some of these things. Alright, I went to go see For Colored Girls during Thanksgiving break with my mother and my sister. My father was invited, but declined because he felt it was going to be a male bashing movie. He is not the only one who thought it to be a male bashing movie. In fact, when a lot of people heard that Tyler Perry directed it, they definitely didn't want to see it because they associate Tyler Perry with male bashing. First of all, I do not believe Tyler Perry movies are male bashing. I've seen every one of them, and a lot of people I think just see what they want to see, because for every good male, for every negative male character, there's a positive male character. And there are also quite a few negative female characters in Tyler Perry movies. We had in Daddy's Little Girls, the mama was a mess. And Why Did I Get Married? Angela is simply the biggest example of the negative black. It's like Angela is nothing but all the negative stereotypes about black women put together. Angela, dominating, loud, belligerent. That is Angela and Why Did I Get Married? You have the woman who is, so into her work, so, career oriented, that she's forgotten about her family and her husband. She's more self-absorbed. She's more into her career and getting further than she is about her man and her marriage and her children. And you have the woman who is so independent that even though she has lost her child, both her and her husband have lost their child, she won't allow either one of them to agree. She won't even be honest with her husband because she's just so independent. So yeah, there are negative female characters. And if you see The Family That Prays, if anybody wants to talk about black women so-called going to the oppressor, watch The Family That Prays. That's all I'm going to say on that. And look at Sanaa Lathan's character. Very negative female character. So, but let's get off of Why Did I Get Married. Let's get back on to For Colored Girls. A lot of people, even women, black women, said that For Colored Girls was male bashing. I didn't see it that way. First of all, if you go into For Colored Girls, look at the title. For Colored Girls. This is not for colored men. This is not for colored boys. This is for colored girls. So don't go in there expecting to see a movie about everything that men go through, because it's not for them. If it was called for colored men, I could see you expecting that, but it's not. It's called for colored girls. And if you know that it was an adaptation of a play called For Colored Girls, for colored girls who considered suicide when the rainbow is not enough, you would know that this is about women who have struggled. So this is not no happy-go-lucky movie where, the men are knights in shining armor. You can tell that by the preview evidence. So if you went in there expecting something like that, that's your fault. It never gave off that impression. Okay. Not only that, but look at the movie for what it is. This movie does not simply, coddle the black woman and allow her to victimize herself. It doesn't. Now, if you went to that movie and you only looked for, so you could point out every little negative image of a black man, then you missed out on what that movie was truly about. You did. Because it really, at the end of the day, is not really about those men. It was about those women. And it was about the black women taking responsibility for their actions, owning up to their part that they played in a lot of those negative situations, and simply, taking control of their lives. You have one character. I know, the light-skinned woman, she slept around a lot with a lot of men. Men always coming in and out of her apartment. There was no really negative male character in her situation. And it's later revealed that, the reason she's usually doing it, she was molested by her grandfather, I believe, if I remember correctly. And, ever since then, she's just taken seconds. She's just given herself away. But Felicia Rashad lets her know that she has control over herself and her body, and that she can decide whether or not to give herself to a man. So towards the end of the movie, this woman starts taking responsibility for her actions, that she was the one allowing men to come in and out of her house, and she gradually stops doing it. She stops letting this happen. She stops laying on her back, as some people say. She does what a lot of people on YouTube talk about black women should do. She starts keeping her legs closed. She starts, taking her power and using it. Nowhere in there was a black, really black man. I mean, yes, the grandfather for the molestation, but it was simply, saying that this is the cause. But she took the responsibility and she fixed it herself. It was nobody's fault but her own that she was, acting it out in that way. The molestation was simply the cause of, everything that was happening. Then you have you have that same woman's little sister in the movie who got pregnant and then got an abortion, a back alley abortion. There was no male character being blamed there. In fact, if you think about it, when you hear her tell her side of the story, the little sister, she's saying how she had sex with some boy in the back of his Buick and they didn't have sex with a condom. Most black women took that as, why would she have sex with somebody without a condom? That is on her. That was her responsibility, to make sure that she herself is protected, and she didn't do that. Then you have Janet Jackson's character, who was in a relationship with a down low man, and people hate this because they say black men are always being stereotyped like this. But look at this. Let's look at it this way. Janet Jackson even said she knew that he had a taste for men. She knew it, but she ignored it because her loneliness was more powerful, than common sense, I suppose. So she just stayed with him. She knew this man was gay, but she messed with him anyway. That is on Janet. And not only that, Janet Jackson's character is a very stuck-up, very independent woman who kind of wears the pants in her relationship and doesn't allow her man to be a man, like a lot of people say. And you see that playing between her and her husband. And you also see how she's stuck up and thinks she's better than other black people. When Loretta Devine comes in and offers her to do to donate to a charity and help out in the same neighborhood that she grew up in, and she refuses because she's like, we all had the same opportunities, they just didn't take theirs, as if she's somehow better than them. She learns later on throughout the movie that, to humble herself. And I think she learns, she also probably learns to pay more attention to her instincts and to also maybe, give a little bit more respect to her man. Well, by the end of the movie, he ain't a man no more, but I guess men in general. Okay, then you have Loretta Devine's character. Loretta Devine's character continues to let a man come back and forth in her life, come back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. He's using her, he's cheating on her, he's always leaving her, but yet she continues to have him come back and forth. That responsibility is on Loretta because she knows that this man does is he's done it numerous times. 9 times out of 10, he gonna do it again. He has not changed. Yet she continues to let him come into her life. Towards the end of the movie, she realizes that it's her fault for letting him continue to walk in and out of her life. That's her fault. It's her responsibility. And I'm not saying it's her fault. Let me rephrase it. It's not her fault, but she allowed him to do it. You know, it's not her fault that he's just one of them little men who just like to play with women, you know, and emotions. But she allows him to do it. And that responsibility is on her. That is her responsibility. Not her fault, but her responsibility. And it's her responsibility to get him out of her life. She realizes that and he's gone. You then have, I'm trying to think, because you have so many female characters with different issues. You have Kimberly Elise, which has one of the most dramatic problems because she's in an abusive relationship with her children's father because they're not married. And it ends in a very tragic manner. And he kills the children. But Felicia Rashad, in the midst of while Kimberly Elise is in this depression, she's in pitying and all kinds of stuff. Felicia Rashad says, you know, you have to acknowledge your part in that situation. You know, you have to acknowledge that you have some responsibility. Take your share. You know, no matter what amount, but take your share in that. Realize you had a part in that because she stayed around and she endangered her children. She didn't attempt to get her children out of there. She didn't. You know, even when social services came, she didn't do anything. Not only did she endanger herself, but she endangered her children, and that responsibility is on her. Some of it is. It's not her fault that he was abusive or that he, you know, did all this, but she does have some responsibility in the fact that she should have at least done her very best to get her children out of that situation, and she did not. You know, towards the end of the movie, Kimberly Lisa's character, you know, works to accept her responsibility in the part that she played in allowing this to go on and you know, allowing her children to be endangered. She accepts this and, you know, she moves on. You know, you have all these women, and the message I got from the movie was not that black men are evil, but that black women, we need to look at our part in the situations and, you know, take our responsibility and then take the power to change it. You know, we can change to help make the situation better. You know, we can take responsibility for our actions and then change those actions. We have power. That's what I got from the movie. Nowhere did I get a male bashing movie. In fact, with Kimberly Lisa's character, Michael Ealy, who played as the abusive boyfriend, father of her children, I felt actually sorry for him. He had just came from the war. He was a veteran who could not find a job, which was frustrating because a man who can't provide for his family and wants to, that's very frustrating for a man. And he wanted to provide for his family but could not. He trying to get, you know, going to school was hard for him, you know, and he was getting declined and he fell into drinking. He was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. There was so many things. I just felt sorry for him. You know, I felt more sorry for him. I didn't really feel that he was an evil black man. I felt that he just, you know, had some really messed up times. Even, you know, with the woman, there was a woman who was raped in it. I think this was a Nika Nani Rose's character who was raped. But most people didn't think about the man who raped her. They think about the fact that she allowed a man that she only knew for 2 weeks and had went on one date with into her apartment at night, wearing little next to nothing. And they were like, why would she do that? You know, you have to realize you have to take responsibility. You have to, for your own safety sometimes. It's not her fault that he was a crazy rapist. But she did make mistakes. And she needs to take responsibility for those mistakes. You don't allow a man that you barely know into your apartment in the middle of the night wearing next to nothing. Especially when he's been sending you signals that he just wants to have sex. No. So yes, overall, for Colored Girls, wonderful movie in my opinion. I enjoyed it. And I think that people need to not look at it as a male bashing movie because it's not bashing men, but instead is having women to take a look at themselves and to acknowledge their part in these negative situations in their lives and to take responsibility for their part and then to make a move to change it. So that's all I want to say. Bye-bye. Well, that's not all I want to say. I'm going to make a part 2. Well, not really a part 2, but something else. Bye-bye.